I think, oh, red button's already going anyway. Luuka Jones, thank you so much. I met you, it'll be 8 years ago now, because if this is 20, that was 12. Yeah, 8 years ago in London, and you were the proudest New Zealander that I had come across for quite some time. You just finished competing, and it had gone pretty well, but not as well as it went in the next Olympics. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, London was amazing. Such cool memories. And while, yeah, my performance probably wasn't great, it was maybe a reflection as well of the level I was at then.
That was your first Olympics, and this sounds stupid. I mean, I spoke to Susie Bates the other day, and so female captain cricketer, queen of cricket.
Yeah, I know Susie.
I'm sure you do. And she went to a Olympics, and I still find that completely mad that she's an Olympian as well as a superhero cricketer, and you were lined up for your fourth, given
Yeah.
Tokyo, four Olympics, Luuka. How do you do
Yeah.
that? How do you do that?
Uh, I think there is a bit of luck involved. When I was 19, I qualified for Beijing, and I often tell people that I accidentally qualified for those Olympics because I wasn't even the best in New Zealand at the time and nowhere near like one of the best paddlers in the world, but I qualified through the Oceania spot. And yeah, I mean, I was so kind of fortunate to have gone to those Olympics because they really did set me up for kind of the years to come, and obviously really motivated me. And yeah, it was just a really special experience for a 19-year-old. And I think when I started kayaking, I never would have dreamed of going probably just even one Olympics, let alone four.
Yeah, and this is that bit from, okay, I had an okay career at cricket, but I don't think it can compare to four Olympics. So where does that luck start though in terms of that Oceania spot? How did you get that luck? As you described it.
Um,
What got you in
oh,
the right
first of
place
all,
at the right time?
you shouldn't downplay your own cricket career. um, I don't know. I think I was always a bit of a trier. I think I went to the Junior World Championships in my last year of school, realized that I sucked at canoe slalom compared with the rest of the world. And I guess in those sort of moments, you're faced with a decision whether to just kind of acknowledge where you're at and kind of call it quits and go to uni and do what all of your friends are doing, or, take a different path. And for me, I kind of made the decision to take a different path, and I moved to Nottingham the next year. And I think, doing that and trying to put myself amongst people who are a lot better than me, I immersed myself in the British canoe slalom kind of scene,
Mm-hmm.
and they're world leaders in canoe slalom. So I think just putting myself in different environments, and yeah, I guess making the decision to step outside the norm kind
How
of brought me a bit of that luck.
Yeah, stepping outside the norm is quite hard to do, and I pick up from your voice that there is there's this you still sort of shelter kind of part of that part of you maybe. What got you out of the norm? What took you there?
um I don't know, I think I just really I still do. I love kayaking. I love canoe slalom. And I just thought, where can I go in this sport? And I can go to university whenever I want, but I can't be a canoe slalom paddler all my life. And it's a kind of a critical point in time, because you're still young, and yeah, you have to make those decisions that are going to impact the rest of your life or sports career.
Have you managed to go back and spend some time at university? Have you managed to fulfill that bit?
Yeah, I mean, in New Zealand, we're so lucky to be able to receive Prime Minister's scholarships. So I've got a Bachelor of Business Studies and a graphic design certificate and a few other things.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely ticked that off, and I think it's really important for sure. And some careers you can't. Some careers are more difficult to do at the same time as sport. My friend Jane, she's a doctor as well as a canoe slalom paddler. I know she finds it really difficult to balance the two.
Yeah. So what are you as well as a canoe slalom paddler?
I'm a
You
bit
are.
of a daydreamer.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm like a bit of a crafty person. I like hanging out with people. I like doing different sorts of sports. Yeah, I'm not too much of a complex character, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. So you're in a position now where you can live on the sport. Is that right?
Yeah.
How long?
Yeah, and it's such a fortunate position to be in. And I remember after Beijing, I'd kind of been there and I saw the athletes who were in the high performance sports system, Sport New Zealand, I think it was at the time, and athletes who are being fully supported. And I thought, I think I need to get to the level to be fully supported so I can pursue this full time, in order to be one of the best in the world. And so I set off after Beijing to try and kind of make that happen. But it took a lot of years before I actually did. But I don't really regret the experience of having to kind of, work your ass off in the summer to save up enough money to go to Europe, live off your credit card, not sure if you can actually like afford to get home again, like all those sorts of things. And I think it's character building stuff, and mainly, well, I guess those times I have the best stories from now. No, now it's kind of smooth sailing and it's all about performance. But back then it was a bit about survival as well.
Yeah.
But mainly I think when I did become supported, it just made me appreciate everything that I got and really make the most of it.
That does change the game though, doesn't it? It does give you this. My first year playing cricket for Wellington, I think I made like $8,000 or $9,000 for the whole year, and it was like that's not a lot. That's not a lot to sort of get by. And I was trying to. I did have a job at the same time, so maybe it was a little bit more, but it was still like, if I go full time here, this is very different. 2 years later, and we're on to sort of central contracts, and there's a little bit more to live on. But it just changes the whole outlook on your sport, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And it really, I think, brings out the motivation. You're obviously motivated by more than just the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you kind of, it's good to go through that period, I think, of having to do it hard.
When you got your first, I'm not going to call it your first little bit of money, but when you got your first, they're going to help me out here. They're going to make this, they can make this dream come true, and I can make their dream come true. Because it's a deal. It's a two-way thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
What was the first thing you went and did? What was the first thing you went on board? Did you go and have a little splash on something when you got that little, I can go and do something now?
I think I paid off maybe one of my like personal loans that I had for ages.
Smart.
Yeah, like I was so poor, just from like years basically of like, trying to fund the seasons myself.
Yeah.
So I think I just, paid off one of my personal loans, but it wasn't actually enough money to like, it was money in the form of support, for services and coaching rather than, for me personally.
But it did give you it did mean that your time was rewarded, as opposed to your time was just to get better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. How deep were you at the time? Because this is that part about not a professional sport, if you like. Is like, how deep do you have to get? How far down until you go, right, I'm not going to make any money out of this. I have to find another way. How far down were you?
Yeah. I think I had like a $6,000 personal loan as well as $4,000 on my credit card, which that was my max actually. I just used to like live paycheck to paycheck in the summer, and then sometimes overseas I would actually run out of money and have to like either call my parents or just borrow money off a friend or something. It was, I mean, looking back now, I think it was kind of thrilling sometimes. Like,
there's no story without drama, is there? There's always a story at the end of that.
Yeah, for sure.
How those phone calls home to to the parents, yeah, I need a flight back from the UK. What are the chances? Was that reasonably regular?
Not really. Like my parents are really supportive, but I think financially, they weren't able to support me that much.
Yeah.
It was more like, I don't know, one time I'd flown back from Europe to the UK, and my credit card was maxed out. I didn't have anything on my, like I had no cash basically, and I had enough money on my phone just to send a text to my mum to ask her if she could put like a couple of $100 in my account so I could get a bus fare to my friend who lived in Bath, and I was going to stay with her for a few days until I flew out. And it's just like, it's moments like that. It's like, what if I didn't have enough on my phone to actually send that message? I would, I was at a bus station in London at like 11 o'clock at night trying to get a bus fare. So
it's not all that easy, is it? It's this, and you sit there now, and I used the word earlier. You used the word fortunate, and look, I was an early adopter to that word fortunate, because you very quickly give up with the I'm lucky. It's like no, you're lucky. No, piss off. I'm not lucky. I am fortunate. I have busted my ass to get here. Yeah, there was a couple of things that went my way, but I've busted my ass. When did you start using the word fortunate? When was that sort of light bulb moment for you?
Well, actually, I had a meeting with Susan Voy once, and she was quite an inspiring person. And she told me that, luck doesn't exist. You basically make your own luck,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do believe in that. And I can't remember how long I've thought I was fortunate, but it's definitely been a while now.
You're happy in that, going, yeah, I made an interesting choice. How did you make that? What was that? How did you get into water, into kayaking? Because I guess that's probably should have started there, but always do it disorderly.
That's so good.
How do you? I did some kayaking at college in my 7th form, and I loved it. I could go under, and I could come back up every now and again, and it was good fun. And I like to think I'm all right, and I like to think I could get on the Matlock course with you if one day locally. But when you were there, I wasn't. Thank you very much. But how do you get into that? Where do you have to live in the world to get into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different in every country. Some countries in Europe, they have huge clubs, and it's really easy just to kind of go down to the club, sign up, and, you've got a full set of equipment and a coach and all that sort of thing. In New Zealand, especially, 10, 15 years ago, canoe slalom was even smaller.
Yeah.
And actually, I just got into kayaking to start off with. So my grandparents moved next to the Wairoa River.
Yeah.
And then my parents moved next door to them. So I just used to go down, and I got a job at the kayaking adventure park down the road. So I'd go down and hang out at the park, and it was a really cool way to grow up, actually.
So you got a job down there because you just enjoyed doing it because it was just down the road?
Well, I started doing swimming lessons with them, and then kayaking lessons, and then they offered me a job. So I kind of worked in exchange for kayaking lessons, and just got into it. I don't think I was a natural to start with. And it took me like a year to learn to Eskimo roll, because I just hated being under the water. There is that feeling of being trapped when you're trying to do an Eskimo roll in a kayak. But yeah, I just go down in the pool and kind of work on my Eskimo roll, then got into whitewater kayaking. And I think the one of my best memories is just going away on these kayaking, like whitewater kayaking trips with my friends, and just camping out and paddling rivers. And it was so cool. It's just such a nice feeling just to be out in nature and doing something you love. And then a few years later, I started getting into slalom, which was kind of the competitive side of kayaking.
Kind of meant you didn't have to paddle back up the river. You could just sort of drag it back up the side of the course.
Yeah, the kayaks are lighter. I used to have to get the dads to like
Yeah.
carry my plastic boat up the Wairau.
Do you still have many of those old pieces? Do you have some of those old boats from way back, or are they all sort of gone and dusted and disappeared and sold off to fund trips?
Yeah, they're long gone. Any assets
Yeah.
was
Hey,
sold off.
you had this gorgeous white kayak in London with white paddle. Tell me you still have that, because that is beautiful.
Yeah, no, unfortunately that got sold as well.
Oh, yeah.
I still have the paddle though.
Yeah.
Nice brand, like pretty much brand new white paddle with the New Zealand flags on the blades.
I was flicking through some photos last night, just trying to do a little bit of because there isn't much out there about you, Luuka. There's very little about you. There's
Oh, really?
No, like you have an amazing website, and I'm now going to go with you made it yourself because of what your university stuff did.
Yeah.
But there's not a massive amount of you. There's a lot about what you've achieved, but there's not a massive amount about you, and that's why.
Oh, yeah, true.
And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because there is always so much more behind the performer and the player, the performer, the competitor. But that white kayak with that white paddle, oh my word, that is
nice,
for lack of a better word,
kit.
That's a sexy bit of kit, yeah.
Yeah, it had a nice it had a beautiful carbon fern on the bottom. You could only see it actually when the kayak popped up out of the water, or if I went upside down.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, yeah, that fern can stay down there. What do you love the kit? Is it? I played cricket because we got free kit quite a bit, and I love free kit. You know, it's always about the bats and the pads and all. You know, the new shoes and things like that. Do you love when it's new kit part of the year, new kit time of the year?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, we buy all our own kit, but there's I think I actually have a small addiction with getting new slalom boats. Just pulling them out of the packet, and they've not got a scratch on them, and you can choose your own kind of colors and designs as well. And something that I spend hours deliberating over is what color to put my next kayak in. But yeah, it's such an exciting time unwrapping a new boat.
What? So you sit there on your sort of and choose your colours and choose your patterns and you send that off, and that eventually gets delivered to you through your front door.
Yeah, usually I pick it up either at a race in Europe or it gets delivered to Nottingham.
Yeah, and they're not cheap, are they?
They're not that expensive, compared with bikes and other sorts of high-tech carbon equipment. But
so you're competitive. Your kayaks. It's not a prohibitive sport to get into, even at an elite level equipment.
No, it's not like track cycling where you really have to have the latest gear, and there's a lot of R&D and that sort of thing. It's a pretty even playing field. I mean, there are some people who tinker around with their boats, and you have different cuts and sizes and that sort of thing. But I wouldn't say that the equipment is limiting at all. Everyone can get into it. Yeah.
What was your what did you have lined up for Japan? Or can you share that with us yet? Or was that a little bit of a secret?
Well, it's not a secret, but I hadn't really made my mind up yet. So I've got a kayak over in Tokyo at the moment. That I like. I've got one here that I like, and I was ordering a new one as well, which I would have tried over in Nottingham, and if I liked that, then I might have raced it. So because they're the kayaks are made in molds in two halves, and then they're cut before they're put together. They're kind of cut to size, but it's all done by hand. So there are slight discrepancies sometimes in how they cut it, and that can really affect how the boat moves. And I think we're just really sensitive to different, if a kayak's a few millimeters out.
Yeah, I read that you can feel that a kayak is a teeny tiny little bit out or whatever. And I've also read that you you've cut up a couple of kayaks yourself. You and your coach, you're just seen walking around in the background.
Yeah.
So you take it like a jigsaw to it and cut the kayak up yourself, or do you send it off to get done?
Well, Campbell's really good at that sort of thing. He like measured it all up and did the calculations as to how much needed to be taken out, what part of the boat. Then used like a Dremel and a really fine kind of diamond cutting blade to slice the kayak open and then take a little bit out of it and put it back together.
So quite a process, and it's quite a minuscule amount that we're talking about. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a few millimeters, so you have to be pretty accurate. I wouldn't want to do the cutting myself.
So how much time do you have to spend in a kayak to get that feel, to go, yeah, something's out here. We're not quite right. This doesn't feel quite as fast, or.
Usually like a week or. I mean, sometimes you can get in and you're like, nah, this isn't a good boat. Other times it takes a little while just to decide. So like you get a boat, you kit it out for yourself. So you put all the foam in, make sure that you're tight in there, put the foot pegs in and everything. And then you put the seat in, and even the position of the seat, like forwards and back, can make a huge difference, just millimeters. And
does that then
feel it?
So when you're coming up towards competition and you've stacked on a little bit more strength and size, does that then make the boat different in terms of being upper body strong and then buoyancy, and does that all change as your body changes?
Yeah, I mean, I actually try and lean up a bit for like major events. But I wouldn't probably differ by, like, I'd probably be a kilo lighter than normal, so it's not a huge difference.
So that 1 kilo isn't as big as saying a boat, but one of your boats being out by a millimeter or two.
Yeah, that doesn't make as much difference.
Wow.
I think maybe because the weight's centralized or something like that.
Yeah. So when do you do leg day, or never?
Oh, I do a little bit of leg day. It's important. Yeah, I don't have very like big glutes, so I try and do a bit of work on them.
That was the bike.
I mean,
that what the bike's for. I can see the bike over your right shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing a bit of biking lately because I can't do any kayaking, unfortunately. But yeah, in the boat, you're actually really jammed in. And to turn it, to control the edges, it's all leg work and glute work. So but we're not doing nothing.
I was pleased. I was being facetious, but in terms of looking at some of the kayaks, I went away. I played kayak water polo on one university.
Oh, cool.
One university thing, and I came back from a weekend away of playing kayak polo. Sorry. And my mum goes, "What have you been doing?" Because my shoulders had just popped out because of all the pedaling, and there is this body thing, is shoulders and legs. So I was being facetious in terms of legs, but your core,
I get that.
The core thing is underrated, though, isn't it? For what you do, that being able to flick your hips from that core is one of the big bits.
Yeah, you're kind of doing little sit-ups the whole way down the course because you have to shift your weight around to be able to kind of lift the bow, or when you're coming into an upstream gate and you're coming in to sink the tail and you're leaning off the pole, you're in these really compromising positions. So, yeah, and it's one of the fun things in the gym actually is playing around with core exercises and just trying to put yourself in these crazy positions and hold them.
So is it a lot of, I guess it is holding, isn't it? So as opposed to completing a crunch or whatever, you are sitting in a static position to hold.
Yeah, just trying to replicate what you do in a kayak because you are holding it just for those few seconds.
I hadn't even really thought. That's interesting. Yeah. So you're isotonic, isometric, whatever. Isometric when you hold the position. Yeah. So how were you building up for Tokyo? And so you were to head back over to Nottingham and get some time in over there, and then head to Tokyo after that.
The plan was to head to Tokyo actually from New Zealand mid-April. So we would have been leaving in 10 days. Have a training camp there, head to Nottingham, do a block there, do 2 World Cups, head back to Tokyo for another training camp, then back to Nottingham, then back to Tokyo for the games.
Wow.
So it was a pretty busy season. And obviously just maximizing time spent in Tokyo learning the venue.
Is that season, is a lot of that built around prize money and trying to win and trying to do that? Is it built around prize money to help fund the rest of the season and moving forward?
No, we rely really heavily on like our like national government support and stuff like that, because to win any prize money in slalom, you basically have to win the whole World Cup series, which means going to the 5 World Cups. Okay. And you probably actually spend more going to them than what you'd win in prize money if you won the overall World Cup title.
Even the world events, the World Cups and things like that, it's still not you can't make a profit from it like you could with golf and tennis and et cetera, et cetera. You can't go and perform in athletics, even go and perform and compete and win and take away a check that will at least cover what you've spent.
Nah, there's nothing like that. It's interesting because like we did have a couple of what's that?
It's still a for love kind of sport.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We did have a race series actually that got brought in. It was called like World Series or something, and you know, you go to each race and they'd invite the top paddlers in and put them up in hotels and everything, and there was a good amount of prize money, but the International Canoe Federation shut it down. And yeah, I don't know, they just don't really like any kind of competitive events coming in, and
they didn't like
I don't know,
and extra exposure. They didn't like an extra more eyeballs and more TV time on the sport. That's
no, yeah, I don't know, it baffles me. I won't get into it.
No, but do you deliberately stay away from that kind of political side of it? Because I got a little bit political with cricket, and I found that a lot of opportunities dried up because I was getting a little bit too outspoken about some things I shouldn't have been. But do you stay away from that side of things because you are so heavily reliant on governmental support and et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any qualms with like New Zealand sport or what Canoe Slalom New Zealand does. In fact, I'm really supportive of the way that the organisation's kind of tracking, and you know, it's mainly run by volunteers as well. So they're all doing a great job. It's more just internationally, you know, the ICF, which obviously encompasses more than just canoe slalom. They have sprint, kayaking, downriver, canoe polo, all of those. I just think that from a marketing perspective, they're trying to kind of market all of the sports under the same umbrella, but really they're just totally different things, and they just need to pay someone to come in and kind of put together a marketing plan for the sport, because at the moment, like, they don't really have too many experts. They just run it within whoever's just
see it maybe because I've been in a kayak and I've done a teeny tiny little bit, you know, that I think it's a great TV sport, but I'm a little bit biased because I can kind of understand what it is like and what it's not like to be on top of your boat. But I think it is a amazing TV sport. What is holding it back then? So you say that series, there was a little bit of prize money. Why would you not want it to be on TV and be more popular? I don't get that. Yeah,
I mean, they do put a lot into trying to get TV rights or selling TV rights, I guess, you know, Eurosport, and it's been on Sky TV and that sort of thing. But I just think that online streaming is the way forward, and just packaging up you know, the finals and putting it on YouTube, but it's just packaged a lot better, and it's more interactive, and they have interviews with athletes and that sort of thing, whereas at the moment it's just like a couple of commentators and some athletes racing down. You don't really get enough of an insight into the sport, I don't think, to really feel a connection to the athletes. And I think that's why people follow sport, is because they feel connected to those athletes. They feel like they know them and they want them to do well. But I don't think our sport does a good enough job of kind of packaging up our content, basically.
Take winter sports for example. And you got skiing, you got all the slaloms, the giant slaloms, and all those, and then you got the luge, the bobsled, the skeleton, etc. And you got the little green flag that comes up, or the red flag that comes up if you're in front or if you're behind the fastest competitor. That's your sport. I love that. Oh yes, she's in front. They're in front for this section, and then you've dropped off. You've lost some pace, and you've lost some. I think that in your sport, in those sports, that instant feedback on who's winning and how you're doing and what happened, and that mistake there, is that going to cost, you're in front in one section and then you have one tiny mistake and then you've lost on that section. Can you make it up on? I think that part of those sports and your one, I think it's easy TV.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just giving a bit more information to the viewers. And we do have a couple of splits down the course, but they're so far apart that you can't really get a gauge of where the time was won or lost, especially to the naked eye, unless someone makes a huge error. And I watch actually a lot of downhill mountain biking, and I think there's a lot our sport can take from that, because there are some strong similarities. But again, there has to be a willingness to do
someone
it.
To drive that. So the link you see is missing is not necessarily the content, it's the adding the person behind the content. So as opposed to just watching the sport, you think you could hook them on the personalities involved in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many cool personalities in our sport, as with every sport. And it's just about showcasing them and giving a bit of background to everyone who's in those final races. Trying to secure some sponsors. I don't think the ICF actually has any official sponsors, which is crazy.
How much room do you have left on your boats for sponsorship? Obviously not at Olympics, but do you have space left on your boats for sponsorships outside of those things? Is that something you still have to try and find? Who finds that? You, or that comes to you?
No, I go out and approach people for sponsorship. It's not one of my strengths. I think it's hard to kind of put yourself out there and promote yourself and try and sell yourself. But I have a few key sponsors who have been with me for a long time. You
have your avocados, don't you?
Yeah, Just Avocados. They've been awesome. They took me on before I it was funny actually, because I moved to Cambridge to live with the rowers when I got supported by High Performance Sport, because they're obviously a good example. And there was an accountant in Cambridge who helped me out, and I think he looked through my finances and was like, holy shit, we need to find you a sponsor. So he helped me he hooked me up with Just Avocados, basically, sponsored me for ages.
Who else is part of that network that's sort of helping you out at the moment that you may as well give a little shout out to?
I have Just Avocados. I have clothing sponsor Marmot and Charco's shoes. Mick Full Fuel helps me out with petrol, and obviously High Performance Sport. And then recently, before all this crazy stuff happened, I approached Vector Weddor, who own the Whitewater Park in South Auckland where I train, and they were keen to form a partnership. So I had some good people on board.
So when you go and do your paddling, and do you have to pay for your course time now when you go and do your training, or is that sort of comped through the government funding?
We get a sum of money from Sport New Zealand and High Performance Sport to run our whitewater sessions on the course. So some of the paddlers who aren't at a top level, they'll pay into the session. And then the carded athletes, we can train for free, which is great.
Carded athletes. That's what it's called. I remember being a carded athlete. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was. Yeah. I couldn't remember what they were called. Yeah, now I remember. What's
Yeah.
Nottingham like? Nottingham, is that a good setup? You obviously spend a lot of time in Nottingham, and yeah, you basically chase the sun. A little bit like cricket seasons for me.
Yeah.
And then you're over there. We were well played you. Good setup over there. Do you go back to the same place? Have you got a flat? How does Nottingham work?
Yeah, I've got a place that I stay every time I go there, and Nottingham's fantastic because the course basically runs all day, so there aren't too many restrictions on when you can train and that sort of thing. Yeah. It's obviously cheap. You can bike everywhere in Nottingham, and yeah, it's actually like a really great city for getting around, and it's got enough going on that it's interesting as well.
Yeah, but what about your paddling and the course there and the facilities there? All works out really good for you, or is that just a base?
Yeah, it's a base. Like, they don't have any races there.
Yeah.
So I kind of just train there and then fly out to Europe. But it's easy, obviously, to drive down to Stansted or something and pop over to Europe for the races. The
course in Nottingham is what? That wasn't the Olympic one in Nottingham, was it?
No, that one's in London, in Lee Valley. But the one in Nottingham, it's been around for ages, and it's kind of, the River Trent flows down, and there's a dam, and the whitewater course runs around. So the water just constantly flows down the course, and
okay, so it's a natural.
Yeah, it's a pretty good setup.
Yeah.
What's that? Sorry.
It's a natural one as opposed to Lee Valley.
Yeah, it's still man-made, but it's not pumped. You have to pump the water back up to the top.
Yeah, that's what I was.
That's right. I think Matlock's pretty natural.
Yeah, that's real natural.
But there's not much water going down it.
You would have been surprised. So that was to the top and overflowing into the park in Matlock. So it happened twice.
Really?
This winter when I've been back here for just over a month. So there's a park up in Matlock that it flooded into, and the whole park was flooded up to the top of that river. So you would have been knocking your head on the actual horizontal wires that hold the poles if you were on the river.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No,
that must have been raging.
Yeah, we had some serious water. You wouldn't have. We had one lady did die. She drove down a road she shouldn't have. So it was. It was pretty serious. It got some pretty big floods, but you kind of like, oh, that must have been raging. You really were like, oh.
Most kayakers, eyes light up at the hint of a flooded river.
Yeah, is there? I did some whitewater rafting in university, and we went down the Buller from the top of the Buller to the source to sea, and we had it in flood. And our guides were saying there's rapids here that have not been here, and there's rapids that were here that are now not here because the flow was so high. Do you find that on some of those natural bits where if you're just doing a river, that it's like, oh, this is all completely different?
Yeah, I mean, because I don't paddle as many real rivers basically as I'd love to. So I haven't had too many experiences like that. But I mean, Hooker Falls, for example, like you turn up and it's running at a really high flow and the rapid is just totally different. And you're like, oh, that's gnarly. Whereas you go there and it's a lower flow and you're like, oh, right, like that's good to go. I can see the line through here and the consequences are less. And I mean, the Wairau River as well, the whitewater piece at the top that runs every Sunday in the summer. Like if it floods, it's just insane. There's all this water just raging down the gorge, and yet some features that are tiny usually and have no consequence suddenly turn into this like raging hole that can just suck you in and trash you. So
that sounds real fun. What is
it's a good time.
Hey, I guess you took it there. What is how scary does it get? How scary can it get?
Canoe slalom itself isn't scary. Like, we're in a pretty controlled environment. Like, the worst thing that's happened to me in slalom is I got pinned on a block in London, and it was only for a few seconds, you know. Whereas, like, on a real river, yeah, the consequences are just quite high. And, you know, obviously there are a few people who have lost their lives to the river, and on home stretches of water as well, you know, like not doing anything stupid or anything hardcore, just small mistakes can actually lead to big consequences when you're out kind of in the elements. I guess it's the same as, you know, mountaineering, that sort of thing. There's just always a risk involved.
Do you ever get to a competition course and ever look at the course and water temperature and take all those things into consideration and go, oh, this is a bit gnarly, this is a little bit they've turned this up a couple of notches?
Not too much. You kind of know what you're getting into, like, at each venue, and they stay relatively the same. Last year in Bratislava, actually, we turned up to the World Cup and the river was just flowing differently. And I can't work out whether it was a high flow, because I hadn't been there in like 5 or 6 years. But it just felt really pushy and really big. And I actually decided not to race C1. I just wasn't feeling comfortable in C1 at the time. So I just decided not to race, because we only have like 4 days to kind of prepare and get used to the course in the World Cup. So I just canned it and race.
That was a decision based on danger?
Probably not on danger, but just like my level compared with the difficulty of the water in C1.
Why?
But not because I was scared, more just because I didn't think I could do a good job of the course.
Okay, so you just thought, no point. There's no point doing this course because I'm not up to that skill at the moment, sort of thing.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to do probably a good job in C1. I'm just focus on K1, conserve my energy. I was a bit fatigued at the time, and it paid off, actually. I was second at that race.
See? You see? Now, C1 is with the one-handed paddle, is that right? And K1's the regular paddle?
Yeah.
Have I got that right?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right.
How much, well, my bad. How much, what's your split? Do you try and do both, or which way is your sort of preference or most success?
Kayak is definitely like my main discipline.
Yeah.
I'd probably train C1 like 30-40%.
Yeah.
So I do like all of my more physical based sessions in K1 as well, and then mainly kind of technical sessions in C1.
Okay, so C1 really helps you. I guess it does really help you on the kayak as well, in terms of one end of the one small paddle that you have to flip sides.
Yeah, I mean, in C1 you're kneeling, so your center of gravity is higher, so you don't have as much balance. And then, you've only got one blade, so you have to be really accurate. You can't just, in kayak you can get away with a lot of things if you're a bit if you're a bit offline, then you can use both blades and a bit of muscle to kind of get yourself out of trouble. Whereas in C1, you just don't have that strength on the other side, and it's a lot more. You have to be a lot more accurate.
Yeah. Hey, so I did see you on the news the other night with your decking fitness session with the chickens. Are the chickens still out there? Are the chickens still out on the deck?
No, they're not.
No.
At the moment, they're in their pen.
What's with the chickens? Just something to just a pet that provides some great food with avocados, or what's with the chickens? Just something else?
Well, I'm a vegetarian, so I'm not going to eat the chickens. But we actually moved to this property a few years ago, when we moved up to Auckland.
Yeah.
And it's like the landlord's house is a big kind of plot of land.
Yeah.
In South Auckland, we've got the landlord's house, and then our place is like a granny flat, and then next to us is the chicken coop. So they're not technically my chickens, but I've just kind of adopted them, and I look after them, and I've named them all. So.
Well, yeah. Do you? That does become hard. That whole having a life that isn't in a bag.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, it's Can you please? Oh, it's the beeping. Okay. So,
Sorry.
yeah, I guess like not being able to own the chickens or
Yeah.
like, yeah, have a place that you're going to be the whole year. And I mean, even up until like the end of last year, I wasn't sure kind of whether we should keep this place where we're living now. And
Yeah.
I don't know, there's a lot to consider, you know, if you're
Yeah.
going overseas for 6 months and paying rent in New Zealand the whole time.
Yeah.
It's not.
No,
I don't know.
I have that. I know that whole thing. It's like, what do I do when I go to the UK and then I come back and I do like, it is a tough one where all your possessions in essence are in a couple of big bags, and you're trying to have a lifestyle and trying to have a home base, but you're hardly ever at home.
Yeah, and you don't want to have to like pack up all your furniture and move it around like every 6 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess now that I am supported well by High Performance Sport New Zealand, you know, that's a luxury that I can have, is not having to move out every 6 months.
Did your silver medal make that change that whole funding structure? Does that, because there's a lot of sports that are based on results in terms of the funding that they get, and so the success in the water that would then for other sports or success in terms of medal counts comes back in terms of more funding. Did that change, not just change your life as being an Olympic medalist, which that's just the coolest thing in the whole wide world, and you still smile ridiculously when I talk about it. Did that change the funding as well, that success?
Yeah, it was interesting because between London and Rio, I was supported on a year-by-year basis, and it was like if you didn't achieve the desired result at the World Championships, then your funding would be cut.
Yeah.
And so it's really stressful, like every year at the World Champs, to, you know, you want to perform for yourself to get good results, but also in the back of your mind, you've got that pressure of, you know, what if I don't?
Yeah.
And then leading into Rio, I think, like for me, from a psychological point of view, it was important to have like a bigger goal than just to go out and kind of perform. And so I really wanted to like put canoe slalom on the map, and I guess everyone was in limbo a little bit. Like none of the, well, you know, my coach and our like kind of team manager and staff who'd done a lot for the sport, Aaron Osborne, we were all like, oh, well, we have no idea what's going to happen after the Olympics. And I think every sport's in that position, but some obviously, you know, like rowing and cycling and the big sports, they kind of know that they'll get some support regardless of results.
Yep.
So yeah, we just had no idea, and I was like, well, I really want to put canoe slalom on the map and do it for the sport. And there are heaps of kids back in New Zealand who, you know, really deserve some coaching and that sort of thing. And the course had just been built in Auckland, so there was a lot like going on in canoe slalom, and just winning that silver medal helped so much of it because we were able to get support, you know, to pay for water at Vector Weddle. And you know, now we've got 3 coaches on board, and we've got I think 5 athletes now are carded and that sort of thing. So yeah, before it was just, you know, Mike Dawson and myself, and now there's a big squad of athletes who have a lot of potential.
So this is kind of, your medal changed the whole system for kayaking and canoe.
Yeah, it was kind of, it did. And it wasn't just the medal. Like, I think there were a lot of people working behind the scenes to kind of try and develop the sport on a volunteer basis. And, you know, we have a lot of coaching documents.
Thing, isn't it, though? Your medal became the tangible thing that, look, we have got a whole lot of people working behind the scenes, and look at this. That does become...
Yeah, it was like, look what we've done with very little.
And so your medal changed the game.
Yeah, it did actually.
That's awesome.
It was so cool.
That's that legacy stuff that is so underrated in terms of, you know, what you pay forward. If you're like, you know, you're doing it for yourself, but now you can go, oh, actually, I'm now doing this for myself, and look what else is coming on board, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's
It's better
awesome.
than
And
this,
now,
yeah.
like, yeah, we've got a CEO as well, and we're like fully acknowledged by high performance sport. And yeah, it's great.
Oh, that's cool. So what do you do now? So your
Move next
bubble.
to a charging point.
Okay. So
What's that, sorry?
what does your bubble look like at the moment, and how are you filling your time? Oh my. Oh,
Oh, it's just me and my partner,
yeah.
Coach Campbell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the
And that's it.
chickens.
And that's the bubble, and you just trying to stay entertained and motivated, and with having absolutely no clue at when or where next thing's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing for me is that the Olympics have been postponed. If we're in this lockdown and not being able to paddle with the Olympics being in August, I would have been a lot more stressed out. But now it's over a year away, and it's kind of like being in the off season at the moment. And I've just kind of, yeah, treated it as a bit of like a end of season break, even though obviously we've had no season,
Yeah.
but just how the timing is and everything. I can just do some gym work and some cross training and stuff.
And a couple of more lamppost flags.
Yeah, I need to work on that actually. It's a
Got
good
that.
goal.
That is ridiculous. I can't even get a half flag, and your whole thing flinging out. Do they? Is that just for fun, or is that part of? I mean, it's not. It's pretty similar to what you're doing on the water a lot of the time in a power position.
Yeah, I think I just like to be creative I am a creative person, and it kind of feeds into the gym. I like to invent new core exercises and challenge
Yeah.
myself. And yeah, I think, gym can be a bit mundane sometimes. You're doing all the key exercises that are good for your sport.
Yeah.
But yeah, it needs to be kind of zhuzhed up sometimes. So that's where the core stuff comes in.
You love a good zhuzhing, yeah. You've got to be zhuzhed up a little
Zhuzh
bit.
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you spend your time on? Are you on the cable machines? What gets a kayaker, a canoeist going? How do you? Because it's not like, yeah. I mean, you're sort of a bit like cricket. There's not a lot that sort of directly transfers in terms of movements. What do you spend in the gym doing?
Well, I'm kind of curious actually to what you guys do in cricket.
Can't tell you.
Can't.
There was a lot of it, Luuka. There was a lot of it that was that I didn't necessarily think was great. Cricket is a bit more lower body in terms of bowling, so there was a lot of lunges and to an extent squats for jumping, for stability on landing, those sorts of things. And then there was your regular bench and shoulder press and Romanian deadlifts for glutes and things like that, glutes and hammies. There was a lot of more lower stuff. I did a bit of stuff on the pulleys. I did try and replicate a lot of my action with what I could on the pulley machine, and so sort of holding it here and driving my hip through a bit like a golf.
Yeah.
Golf. So there was, but I always worked on my elasticity too. So because I was a elastic shoulder bowler in terms of that's where a lot of my pace, my speed came from was leaving this as long as possible. So there was so many non-specific things that we did, and then I tried to get as specific as I can. But it's hard, and so you have this position where there's not much things in the gym where you can get into that position, is there?
Yeah, well, there's so many different positions to get into in canoe slalom on the course, so you can't really replicate any of them too much. But I think just being strong and robust, we've actually had a couple of our guys, our younger guys have got stress fractures in their backs, and it's actually the same stress fracture that bowlers get in cricket.
L4, L5?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, it's interesting, but I think in the gym.
Is that from torsion?
What's that?
Is that from torsion, the twisting and pulling and leaning in?
Leaning forward and back, rotating.
That whole javelin.
And because our seats come up our back a little bit, you're kind of pivoting from quite high up your back, which isn't very healthy.
Yeah, sure. What
Yeah.
can you what do you add to the sport now to change that? Do you change the seat position? Because that's quite a serious,
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
a long time out of the sport with a
it's
stress fracture.
yeah, it's concerning. And one of these guys is my training partner actually.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think he's playing around with, how he fits out his kayak to add some more support behind the seat.
yeah.
But yeah, I think something really does need to be done. And
So
maybe it's as well just trying to get our younger athletes a bit more robust in the gym. And these guys as well probably do quite a few backflips. They're like,
yeah, okay.
they do a lot of rad stuff like skateboarding and
Yeah, okay, yeah.
skiing and backflips. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it could have happened
So
during doing
there's other
something like that.
impact. There's other ways where those impacts could have happened to
Yeah.
to cause the stress reaction and stress back. Yeah, sure. Okay, so they're not just floating around on bubbly water doing stupid things.
Nah.
Yeah. How long you got this time? You sit there in limbo. How do you stay motivated? Like you said, it is this end of season kind of thing. You are just kind of having a bit of a, it's all right. We can catch up on a few bits and pieces. Do you look at courses? Do you study your old videos? Do you just go catch you later and spend some time in your bubble with your bubble friends? How do you? Because you don't get a lot of that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the first week of self-isolation, I kind of just tried to chill out and just have like a mini holiday. Oh, chicken inside. Hang on. Helen, outside.
She listen?
Yeah, and then I think it's important actually to get into some sort of routine and set some goals.
Does Helen listen?
No, she doesn't listen to me. If I had food, she listens.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I've got some goals like in the gym just to get stronger and
Yeah.
on the bike out in the park where we're allowed to go, just get a bit kind of better on the bike. And because it's a mountain bike as well, there's a technical aspect of it. So I think it's good for my mind to kind of still be, doing video review out on the mountain bike trails. And yeah, it's kind of the same as what we were doing slalom.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not going to go mad. You're not going to go crazy. You're going to have an outlet that is, because I'm missing having. I haven't done anything. I normally do a little bit of swimming, a little bit of water polo, and I haven't done anything kind of competitive for over a month now, probably like 5 weeks. And I'm starting to go a little bit, a little bit mental because I can't get back to the UK and all the pools and things are shut and my mountain bike's over there and I can't even get out on that. So it's just like, there isn't much really to do if and you do need that doing something that made me tingle a little bit.
Yeah, and everyone has kind of their outlets and yeah, people like you, like those outlets are closed or you can't access them. And I think that is really difficult. And it's the same for me with slalom. Like I just love it and I look forward to waking up and going paddling every day and not being able to do that. Like I've tried not to think about it too much actually.
When you're let's say you're at Victor Wedo, and you're up there, how well do you know that course now? How well can you do that with your eyes shut now kind of thing? Or is there always a bubble of water that just pushes you off? How does that work now?
Yeah, it's a really demanding white water course. And the thing about slalom is that we move the gates around. So even though the water's the same, essentially, all the gate combinations are different. Okay. So yeah, from a mental point of view, you're being challenged every day with new kind of puzzles to solve and new combinations to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do know it well, and it kind of reflected in, Oceania Championships. I didn't have my best performances there, but I was still quite fast compared with the rest of the field because I know the water really well. Yeah.
Do you have input into where those gates go?
Where the gates go?
Yeah. Do you go? Oh, that would be a really good place for. What are they called? Not gates. What are they called?
Oh yeah, we do call them like either gates or slalom poles or
Yeah.
something.
Do you have input into where they go? And because you think, oh, that would be a rad line, that would be really crazy, that might be really, really tough. Do you have input on that?
Usually I'm warming up and the coaches are out setting the gates.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes if I'm training by myself, then it's quite fun actually to, put the gates where you want them and
Yeah.
to, come up with new combinations.
And you must still goof around a little bit, because you still have to goof around. You still have to have some just be silly with it. What is the goof around bit on the water that you have to? We used to goof around by imitating other people that used to play, or making would imitate people's actions or demeanors and things like that. What is your goof off bit when you're on the water? Given that it is a little bit dangerous, but you're still hugely confident on it. What is your goof off? What do you do?
Yeah, we kind of call them play sessions where we
Yeah,
just
cool.
like really open to making mistakes, and you might do quite a few rolls because you're trying really difficult moves. But
Yeah.
on the water you can really like play with the waves and the features, and they're actually really good sessions just to do, and I think before a race as well, when you move from that kind of purposeful practice and trying to get into a flow state where you're not overthinking things, you're kind of letting your kind of subconscious ability just
Yeah.
shine through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are they? What do you do? Is it just a matter of, do you do just to have a race top to bottom straight down? Do you do things like that? Or is it always got to come on? You must just do a top to bottom race with people straight down, side
Not
by side.
often, no.
Why not?
I think because the fun part is like going around the slalom poles, and you're almost like dancing on the water, and
Yeah.
would like maybe even just pick 4 gates and do repeats on these 4 gate combinations, like for half the session, and every time you come in it's slightly different. You're having to readjust, or you do a gate as an upstream or a downstream, or you can just play around, and it's really fun when other people are on the water and you kind of challenge each other to do harder and harder moves.
So you've never ever just gone top to bottom in a straight line as fast as possible?
Oh, I have, and it is cool, but it's not the most fun thing to do on the water. But I was thinking of setting up a Strava section actually.
Yeah.
Strava?
Yeah.
Because I've been out on the mountain bike trails, obviously, and I like look up to see where I'm ranking on the track. Where I was thinking on where it would be cool just to set up a Strava section top to bottom, and it's just
a straight out sprint Strava section. Thank you very much. Can you go and do that, please? Because that would all. It's like, well, straight line, and there's as little energy consumption as possible. Just go in a straight line. I know there's still some bits and bobs, but no, I want that recorded, and I want that to become a thing, a Victor Wedo leaderboard, a Strava board of straight.
That's a good idea, actually.
Down the river. No, you're welcome. That's what I give you.
I'll credit you on the leaderboard.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You can take it. No one will know that I ever said that anyway. Hey, I'm gonna. Hey, this has been awesome. I've loved this. Like I said, met you in London, and it was kind of weird because you came in with Vermeulen. What's his name? And he had a bronze medal cycling.
Oh, did I come in with Simon?
Simon, yeah, and he had this bronze medal, and that was kind of cool. And you were a little bit. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, he's got his medal, and I'm just like, I'm over here. Yeah,
living through the medalists.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'll go and talk. Yeah, so hey, it was awesome to meet you, Ben, and awesome to catch up with you now. Thank you so much for
this has been awesome.
It's cool.
And nice work on using the time wisely and turning this into an opportunity, No,
look, I've been meaning to do this sort of stuff for quite a while now, and it's like, well, I've got so much time, so yeah,
it's awesome.
I do want you to take me out on Nottingham, because I'm only 45 minutes, or maybe just a little bit more from Nottingham. So when you're back over there, everything will be okay. Mm-hmm. So I want you to take me out in Nottingham, and while I don't have any. I don't have a boat, so I'm going to have to borrow.
That's all right. I'll find you one.
Yeah. A big fat one, please. Can I get a big fat one? So
Yeah. I'll find you a stable one.
Thank you
But
very
then
much.
we'll have to see if you can still Eskimo roll.
I can Eskimo roll. I was canoe polo, so I can do it without.
But yeah, canoe polo.
I can do
The
it
bread
with
and
just my
butter for
hands.
Eskimo rolling.
That was a long time ago, though, with just my hands, something like that. I can't anyway. Hey, this has been awesome. But so I will see you in Nottingham at some stage soon.
Yeah.
And
I hope you get back home safely and that your family's all well and everything.
Thanks, Luuka. That's awesome. I appreciate that. That's thank you. Right, take care. Well, see you soon.
You too. Great to speak to you. Cheers. See ya.